Welcome everybody to another Amicable Divorce Discussion. I'm very happy to be joined today by one of our longtime members, really, Jennifer Brown, who I've known for several years. Jennifer is not only a member of the Amicable Divorce Network, she also serves on our board and is in charge of our mortgage and real estate section. So I definitely thank her for that. Jennifer is a certified divorce lending professional with Neighborhood Mortgage that is here in Alpharetta, Georgia, but she helps clients in different states, not just Georgia. And she is here today to talk to us specifically about why you should work with a certified divorce lending professional, which is something I'm very passionate about, but I will let her explain. And also what qualifying income is. Can you actually stay in the marital home? What will it take to get there, and why you should investigate that before you sign an agreement. So Jennifer, I'm going to turn it over to you. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, your business, and where you can help people.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me, Tracy Ann. I have been originating mortgages for 24 years. I've been in the industry 25. I've actually been in the financial services industry for almost 30 years. So I have seen a lot of divorce decrees over my years. And a lot of times, unfortunately, when we get the decree, we learn that for some reason, the homeowner is not going to be able to actually perform, right? Because there's something that they don't qualify for, and we're not going to be able to meet whatever the court order is. So when I learned about the certified divorce lending professional designation, I was so excited because I thought, wow, this is brilliant, really, because, you know, when you start originating mortgages, everybody teaches you to call on real estate agents and builders because that's where all the buyers are, real estate agents and builders. But family law attorneys actually come in contact with homeowners all the time. So I think the stat is about 70% of divorces involve a marital residence. I mean, do you feel like that's pretty accurate?
I do. Almost in every case, we have a marital home, and the parties are, through their negotiations, trying to determine who's going to stay in the home, who's going to leave the home. And one of the problems I've seen over the years is sometimes I come in after the fact, or sometimes I'm the mediator. So I'm a neutral party where parties are saying, oh, well, this person will simply refinance the home in X number of days and buy me out of my equity without any investigation on whether that is possible. And they're signing legally binding documents and agreements. So tell us how we can help people not do that, not set themselves up for failure, I guess. So.
Right. So I'll say this, I really appreciate you being a big advocate for divorce mortgage planning, because I feel like there still is a huge lack of presence on the divorce team when it comes to divorce mortgage planning. Yeah. I mean, I talk to attorneys all the time and they're like, I didn't even know that this was a thing. Right. Yeah. I had no idea what the guidelines are. And we always joke that the mortgage industry isn't rocket science, but it's close.
Yeah.
I mean, Fannie Mae has over 1,200 pages of guidelines. Freddie Mac probably mirrors that. FHA is over 1,500 pages. VA is a little more succinct. They're right around 600. But each one of those loan programs or VA benefit, they have their own guidelines. Mm-hmm. Right. So there is a lot to know. And as a family law attorney or a mediator, you don't keep up with that. I mean, you
wouldn't have the time to keep up with it. Exactly. And reading what you're talking about, I probably wouldn't understand it because that's not my area of expertise. So,
exactly.
You know, with the Amicable Divorce Network, we're very passionate about clients getting the most quality information that they can to have the best divorce that they can that's possible, and structuring the right team for them. So whenever I have a case that involves the marital home, you know, I'm always saying you need to meet with a certified divorce lending professional to see if this plan that you have for your future is even possible. Because another thing that we've seen is with the home values that were skyrocketing or are starting to even out a little bit more right now, but we're just incredibly high. people were having to refinance with this high value, sort of this bubble value of a home. And we're just signing documents, saying, oh, I'll just do this or that. And it just isn't practical. And then people are disappointed. So
Right. That's
as
right.
an attorney or, even a mediator, what should we recommend to people that they do prior to signing a legally binding agreement if they're dealing with the home?
So let me start by saying that, and this is important because when you're going through divorce, much like when you're getting married, everything it's like you're just bleeding money, right? You got to pay for this, you got to pay for that, you got to pay for this, you got to pay for that. There is no fee to consult with the CDLP. So yes. As a mortgage loan originator, I cannot charge you an upfront fee for a consultation. I can charge you for your credit report, but I'm not going to do that because that's not a standard practice at Neighborhood Mortgage. So they should know that it's not going to cost them anything to consult with a CDLP. And the other thing that they should know is that, first of all, as the financial neutral, we're going to get the facts and then we're going to make a recommendation. They don't have to follow our recommendation, obviously. As you know, there have been many times that I have recommended that the home be sold because, to your point, we are in a very high equity market right now. And lately, we've gone from being at a very low interest rate market to a more normalized interest rate market. So we were under 3% in December. Now we're at, low 5%. Mm-hmm. So I'll give you an example. I actually spoke with a client who was referred to me by another Amicable Divorce Network member, and they are in a very, very high value home, not a huge mortgage amount at a rate that's below 4%. Mm-hmm. And so we were talking through the situation, and I said, well, are you having to do an equity buyout, or do you need to access the equity? No, I'm getting all the equity in the home. And I said, well, other than releasing your husband from the mortgage, what's your motivation to do this? And she said, well, he won't be able to buy another home if I don't release him from the mortgage by refinancing. And I said, that is incorrect. I said, if the home is awarded to you in the divorce decree, and you're responsible for the mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance, HOA, that is now considered a contingent liability for your husband. And we will not count that against him when he goes to purchase another home. And it was like, oh, she's like, oh my God, thank you so much. I think
that's a very common misconception that I hear from the public when I'm meeting with a client, or in the mediation process when I'm hearing what people are discussing, is that they'll be saying, you have to refinance this home. You have to do it in a year, is sort of a common misconception of things. Because this will impact somebody's ability to move forward in the future. And that just isn't the case if you have a court order to the contrary.
That is 100% correct. It is not the case. Now, that's not to say that people don't want to be released from it because they don't want to be tied to that obligation, right? Because even though we don't count it against you, if somebody stops making the mortgage payment, it's going to have an adverse effect on your credit. Right. But this is a situation that's amicable, mm-hmm. and they have school-age children, and they both want the children to stay in the home until they graduate from high school. Mm-hmm. So that's a situation where the attorneys may agree, okay, this is okay. We're okay with him still being on the mortgage, and there'll be an end date to it at some point. Mm-hmm. The home will either have to be sold or refinanced. But that's a perfect situation, example, if you will, where that was what was in the best interest of the client. Right. And that's what I really like. Much like the Amicable Divorce Network is very different than a collaborative divorce, right? There's a vetting process. You have to have a certain amount of experience. You have continuing education. The CDLP is exactly the same thing. Jody Bruns, the founder of the Divorce Lending Association, doesn't just let anybody get their CDLP designation, mm-hmm. right? Yeah. They've got to be ethical and being a consultant and making giving the advice that's in the best interest of the client, right? And that doesn't always result in us getting paid. Right. So that's I think that's one of the biggest things, and why I'm really proud to be a part of that association, because it's not a bunch of mortgage people out there just trying to sell you something.
Right.
Right.
You're doing what's best for the client by giving the advice that's best for them, not necessarily for your pocketbook, which is very similar to how amicable divorce works, because attorneys and other professionals make more money on conflict, but we are reducing conflict, which means we make less money, but it's better for the family and it's better for the individual to have a healthy divorce. So the two organizations are very aligned in what our goals are.
Absolutely, for sure. And we feel good about ourselves at the end of the day, right?
That's
So
a plus.
important.
That's definitely a plus. Yeah.
It is a plus, because like you, I mean, we've been doing this a long time, and when you're new, it's all transaction based, right?
Yeah.
Well, I got to close it. I got to close it. I got to close it. And now you're more consultative and you say, hey, this really probably isn't the best idea, but when you go to buy a house 4 or 5 years from now, I hope you will remember me. Right.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things that we run into is qualifying income, right? So I get calls all the time from family law attorneys and mediators when they're in mediation. Hey, here's the situation. Tell us what you think. How do we need to structure this so that this will work?
Yeah.
So actual income and qualifying income are very, very different things, right?
Right.
So just because you are receiving the income doesn't necessarily mean that we can use it to qualify you for the mortgage. So that's the biggest thing that we run into, is how to structure the income so that we're going to be able to exercise the refinance if that's what's required.
Yeah.
And there's a
So
lot
what
of
is included in qualifying income? If I'm meeting with a client, what sort of things should I be looking at that they get in their pocket to help them out?
So the rule of thumb is stable and consistent.
Okay.
So stable and consistent means that you are receiving about the same amount of income about the same time every month, right?
Okay.
So there are specific rules as it applies to child support and alimony. So we call it the 636 rule. You have to be receiving it for 6 months.
Okay.
And you have to have a 36-month continuation after you close on the mortgage.
Okay.
So you're at 42 months.
Mm-hmm.
And, we like to have a cushion of at least 2 months, because we never know what's going to happen.
So let's say, for example, because this brings to mind child support. So is child support included in qualifying income?
It can be qualifying income as long as you're going to have continuance for 36 months after you've received it for 6 months. So we run into this often. You're going to have a child age out before the 36 months continuance can be met.
Right.
So in a situation like that, we might say, okay, well, can we redirect some of this child support and make it alimony?
Right.
So that we can span it out over a longer period of time. So we can use it as qualifying income.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, 100% of the time in an amicable divorce, everybody's going to agree to that, because typically the goal at the end is the same for everyone.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what's really helpful about having a client meet with you prior to going into a negotiation, making an offer, mediation, anything like that, is because if my client comes to me and says, Jennifer has said, because, my son is graduating in 2 years, I need to have X amount, and we need to structure it as, alimony for this period of time so that I can refinance the house or meet my other financial goals. And I can present that professional document to the other side saying they have met with a certified divorce lending professional, and here's the plan of action that we need to execute this, properly. That's very persuasive. And normally, because you're an expert in this field and, do that we're done with that negotiation. Everybody wants that goal to happen and for there to be success. And so that is very helpful to getting us over the finish line in the way that we need to, so the clients are able to meet their goals regarding the house.
Right. Because your home is your sanctuary, especially for your children. Right. So if the goal is to keep the home, then everybody wants to work together to make that happen. But if you don't know what the mortgage guidelines are, you may have the best intentions in the world, and then come to find out, now what are we going to do?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I've seen that multiple times, and I sometimes have clients that come to me and say, oh, well, I walked into my bank and I met with the person at the mortgage counter and they pulled up a few things and said, oh, I'll definitely qualify, or something like that. And I'm like, that's not quite what we need in a divorce situation, so this is a very specialized area. So let's meet with the proper professional for the divorce situation.
Absolutely. And you've got to ask a lot of questions because the guidelines are different depending on how long you've been on title, for example.
Yeah.
So if you have to perform an equity buyout, you've got to be on the title for 12 months.
Yeah.
You have to be on the title 6 months for a cash out refinance. You'd be surprised how many people are not on the title to the home that they live in.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Yes.
Every once in a while, I'll Google divorce lending just to see what comes up.
Yeah.
There was an article published not that long ago by Bankrate, and they're quoting a mortgage originator. I can't remember what state, somewhere up north, and he keeps referring to it as cash out refinance. You can only get 80% loan to value. And I'm like, that is totally bad information.
Yeah.
But people are reading it.
Exactly.
So if it's on the internet, it must be true.
And it sounds like it's from a, Bankrate reputable website, people even, and when I'm in mediation, Google things to pull up information to answer questions, to sign a legal document. And so they, a lot of times, aren't taking the proper steps beforehand. But I think the lesson that we can learn is, as a person approaching divorce, or as a divorce professional, whoever it is that's watching this video, there is an expert out there that can help you, a certified divorce lending professional. It is free to meet with them. It is just one extra step to make sure that such an important asset, the marital home, is handled properly. A lot of times that's the biggest asset that we're dealing with. In addition, it's the most emotional asset that we're dealing with. Just like you touched on, that it's a family sanctuary. It ties to your children's school. It may have a lot of memories associated with it, and somebody usually is very passionate about staying in that home. So you have the opportunity to make sure that you're set up for success. And we always recommend, of course, in the network and in my personal practice as well, meet with a certified divorce lending professional. So if somebody's interested in reaching out to you and learning about your services, tell us what states you service, as well as how somebody can get in contact with you.
Awesome. Well, I am licensed personally in Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. Neighborhood Mortgage is additionally licensed in Tennessee and South Carolina, and hopefully will soon be licensed in North Carolina as well. I do have other loan officers that I work with that are licensed in those states that can help. And you can find me online at nloans.net/Jennifer. And I am, again, very appreciative for all that you do to advocate for divorce mortgage planning, because I feel like it's so very important, and it's often very overlooked. So
it's one of the unfortunate secrets of the divorce industry is, as a practitioner, you can cover your butt, set your clients up for success, that you have a happy client that isn't coming back to you in 6 months saying, you had me sign this agreement that I couldn't follow through with. So you're doing the best by your clients to make them happy and successful in the future for whatever it is. And one little tidbit that I'll add is, if refinancing or staying in the marital home isn't possible, it's Jennifer that gets to deliver that bad news. It's not you telling your client that, so you can pass the buck to her and take a little heat off of you for that, because it really just comes down to the numbers and how things work out. So you can get a little bit of help on your team by working with a certified divorce lending professional.
Yes, and we will deliver that message in a very compassionate way, of course.
Thank you very much.
But it does absolutely take the heat off of you, no doubt about that. So, perfect. And hey, Tracy Ann, thanks so much for everything that you've done, founding the Amicable Divorce Network. It is a wonderful network of like-minded people. I really am I'm just absolutely thrilled. You and I met through another networking group that we were kind of like, I don't know, this may not be for us, but I'm so happy that happened, because I wouldn't have met you otherwise. Yeah. And it's been just wonderful working with like-minded people and helping each other help clients through this really emotional time in a compassionate way. with, fair billing and all of the things that you guys do and promote. I just really thank you for it. It's so important for our
Well, thank you.
community.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you very much. That's very nice to hear. Yes, we definitely want to help people divorce in the best position possible. There doesn't need to be as nasty as it is. It doesn't need to be as complicated as it is. So we really, it's a whole different ball game when you're working with reasonable, like-minded professionals and aren't getting nasty emails, and you have, you just have really solid professionals that you're working with that are at the top of their game, because we vet people for being very experienced in their profession to help our clients that are going through this difficult time. So I appreciate your support and all you do for the network. If you find that you need a certified divorce lending professional, you can go to the Amicable Divorce Network. Look on our webpage under the member directory. You can find who is available in your state, and you can find Jennifer Brown there as well, listed in her states of licensure. And you can always just pop us an email to see who we know to help you out. And we're always happy to do that. So thank you, Jennifer, and thank you to those who are watching. To learn more about how to qualify for refinancing the marital home to set yourself up for success.
Thanks, Tracy Ann. See you soon.